Hey, Sam.
Oh, what's happening with my camera? How you doing, guys?
Good.
Good. Black screen.
Fucking hate settings. If you don't hate computers, you haven't spent enough time working on them. Um,
Exactly.
it, it's not letting me change my camera. Uh, let me.
It is recording. Shouldn't have any
Yeah.
issues, right? I can't remember when people drop out and come back. If there's, there we go.
Yeah. How's it going, guys? I really enjoy the podcast, by the way. I just want to tell you that.
Oh,
Like, I don't
wow.
listen. I really don't listen to tech podcasts. But I listen to you guys, and I actually fell asleep with my AirPods in, which I do all the time. And I woke up at like 4 in the morning to just you two talking into my ear, um, about
Ah.
self-driving cars. The answer is LiDAR, by the way, is the big difference. Cameras and
Oh, is
LiDAR.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, come to SF and ride them. They're amazing. I was at, like, me and a few PlanetScale people in like the early beta of the Waymos, and I was just sending people in them, and they were just losing their minds. They're absolutely
So,
amazing.
so the Waymos use lidar, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that it's so much more predictable, and you're doing
Yeah.
the Teslas are doing camera models, which they'll achieve one day, but it's not good
Just a
enough now.
slower. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, I still have this open question with why they are so restrictive, like why they have the thing turned on so aggressively to make sure you're paying attention. Like Waymo, if they've had
Oh, I
driverless,
knew the answer to that, by the way. The levels of self-driving are not just a comment on the tech; they're a comment on the indemnity. So when you
okay.
hit level 4, you're actually telling the authorities that you take responsibility for the crashes as the manufacturer.
Oh, interesting.
And the only person who's
Okay.
got, and the only people for good enough tech that have done that are obviously Waymo, but Mercedes are the only ones that have level 4. If Mercedes like auto driving shit, if that crashes you, they're happy to be on the hook for it. And you know what Tesla's like.
Interesting.
If they say
Oh,
that
yeah. So, yeah, will they ever?
correct, they will like if they say it's safe and say you're allowed to take your hands off and smash, like you've said you're level 4 without saying you're level 4, and then you're in trouble. So that's why that works.
Well, what other questions can you answer for us that we've raised over the years?
All
This
right,
is
all right.
awesome.
I'll go back to
Just
the
hopping straight
archive
in.
and start taking notes. Is this too choppy? Am I cutting out,
It's a
by the
little
way?
choppy, but
Let me see.
The audio is a little choppy. At least for us to hear, it records locally, so that shouldn't be a problem. But
You're
if you can
cutting up.
improve something, it would help.
You're cutting up a bit as well. Um, I'm trying to think the easiest way to get to Ethernet. The reason I'm here. This is actually used to be the bar in our house, and I used to have an office. But now I had to. My kid turned 5, and I had to give him a playroom, so which he calls his office. So I don't have Ethernet here yet. Um, so I can't really get on Ethernet, but I think it's normalizing a bit now.
Yeah, that is
yeah, it does
better.
seem better.
I think we're
Yeah,
starting. I think
the playroom thing's funny because we don't. Good.
no, it's causing problems. I need to get an Ethernet cable. Uh, or reconnect to the
Okay.
Wi-Fi. Give me one more second and see if I can get to a. Let me. I'm so sorry, guys. I can run
Yeah,
over
no
if you.
worries. I was
If
also looking to see.
and let me go to my
Oh,
Unify
go
and
ahead.
see. I I can see which I can see which access point I'm attached to and maybe move it. Uh,
I also wondered if I could turn down the live like bitrate or something. I'm looking
mm. Yeah, if it's all local, like it doesn't matter really, does it? Um,
just to the extent that we can have a conversation without like
Stuttering,
stepping
yeah.
on each other and yeah.
But the bit rate shouldn't matter then.
Yeah.
Then
Well, I think they have different settings for your live like quality, and I thought maybe we could send less of our faces over the wire or something so that it
mm,
was faster.
that would be nice.
But I don't actually see it. I thought
The
it was
bit,
the thing. It might be just in the top level studio settings, and we might not be able to change it on the fly.
I think I'm actually attached to a suboptimal access point. Um, yeah, I am. I'm going to disconnect, but it will move me to a better access point, I think.
Cool. So there is a setting to turn off video. It's called low data mode. If we need to try that, we can try that.
Oh, nice.
Like it'll still record video, just not live.
Sorry, I just went to the loo to save the time. Can you hear me now?
It sounds pretty good right now. I wonder if there's a delay, like how quickly we're hearing each other.
You're not cutting out for me.
Okay.
You seem much better. Good.
Yeah,
Thank
I think
you.
this
Sorry
is better.
about that. I can run
No,
over.
no worries.
By the way, I added buffer after 11, so I can chat longer.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Now I kind of want to talk about Unify because I use Unify stuff and I generally like it.
I love it. I've been a bit too ridiculous with it, and like I'll send you a picture. I built like a whole server rack and got everything in it. I love it.
Same.
So
So did Adam.
No, it's the best.
He loves talking about it. He loves
do.
going. The fiber terminates right in that closet.
It's
I do love
incredible.
talking
Like
about
Unify have nailed prosumer. They've crushed prosumer. It's just like
yeah, exactly.
it's perfect. They run Mongo on it though, so not everyone's
Oh,
perfect.
really?
Yeah.
It runs locally on the server.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
that's funny.
I mean, sort of the 2010s era is pretty weird for tech, honestly.
That's when I entered. That's when everyone had that MongoDB shirt, that brown one with the leaf on it. That was like all over New York. Everyone had that.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first intro to like tech.
I found a MongoDB mug in the GitHub kitchen and just threw it in the trash immediately. I couldn't even look. I couldn't even look at their swag. They drove me so fucking insane. It drove me crazy.
I think like the very early days of my startup StatMuse, because it was like 10 years ago, I think we built on the mean stack. Just like right after the prototype, we did like mean stack, and then we are like, never mind. And we went back to stuff we knew. We did like one iteration of it was Mongo.
Mern. The Mern stack. That's
I switched to Mern.
Yeah.
That's all I hear is the Mern. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Hey, they fixed it now. Mongo's good now.
Yeah, it is. It is. They started writing the data to disk, and everything went better from there. Like,
yeah, it is somewhat critical.
Yeah.
Are you in SF?
Yes, I'm like the Painted Ladies, the kind of famous view, the Apple TV view. I'm like a block behind it, basically.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Very simple. Hayes Valley. You see people talk about Cerebral Valley on Twitter or whatever because it's now the AI.
Yeah, the reason I ask is you guys talk about the Unify routers. I've lived in New York where no one has a place big enough to justify that at all.
Yeah, right.
And then like you get one router and you have like 100% coverage in like every corner of your space.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in a place that is right on the cusp. Like I do have like one of those generic like Google Home cluster
The mesh
things or whatever.
Yeah.
The mesh things. And it's good, but if I go into my hammock, which is in the back corner of my backyard, it starts to not be so good. And I'm like, do I need to go up one level now?
Yeah. Awful, isn't it? It's really awful.
When you can't get Wi-Fi in your hammock that you can use year round, it's basically what's the point?
Someone at PlanetScale told me that if the no-brainer, like it just fucking works, is the Netgear Eero stuff is apparently just plug-in just does really good. Like buy that one for your parents, like
yeah. My friend just got that. And it works pretty well. So what is this the deal with Unify? I see a bunch of people. I saw like Nikita Beer just did a bunch of upgrades, and I think that's what he went with too. Why is everyone so into it? They
are not quite like a Meraki or Cisco who are doing the really big stuff, but they're kind of moving there actually. And they started off just by having really good access points, a really good controller, and just some like simple stuff. And they've just kept, and the platform was essentially a very good controller operating system. And then just
it's really nice.
It's very
like I constantly am surprised by how nice it is.
Exactly. And so then you then they use that platform to incrementally add even better things. So now they do all my cameras for the outside of the house,
Same.
secure,
Yep.
so because it's PoE, and they've also mega embraced PoE. They now do office lighting
Nice.
that's PoE controlled.
Oh, that's crazy.
So like I've got PoE controlled cameras, I've got PoE like doorbell, like everything just goes
Yep.
through PoE, and you can just reboot that, and you can do all this kind of stuff, and then good outdoor like access points, indoor plug based ones. It's just like every accessory, every type of camera, every type of thing is, you can run it in a mode where you don't change anything and it gets to about plug and play if you're like don't want to fuck around. But if you really want to do graphic shaping and like all of the complex stuff, you can do that too.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do is like, well, two things. One, I actually read when they send emails. I like open them because it's like some new device and I want to read about it.
Exactly.
But two, like it's like a weekend pastime for me is to like open up the controller and just play around with like, what could we do on the network that would be fun? Like there's this stupid game that my kids' school has him play that they just get so addicted to it. And so we can shape when they can use it, when they can't. I just love playing around with it. And the software is so good.
It's amazing. You can bridge. I've got another house, and now I'm using their multi-site capabilities because I put Unify in that house.
Oh, damn.
So I can VPN and do everything. It's like very cool. You can, and now they do a consolidated camera view where I can get both houses in one. They've done a full like multi-site camera dashboard. So I'm all over that shit now.
So Dax can't get Wi-Fi in his hammock, but you've got the same network in two different locations.
My hammock 100 miles away has great Wi-Fi actually. I do have hammock. Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, they just do that shit. It's really fun, really good. Just and I think there's some ex-Apple people. I think that's why it's actually.
The hardware is good too. Like the design, all of it is done really well. I didn't know there was ex-Apple. That makes sense though.
I actually found out that Mongo was on the box because I had one time where it actually like shit the bed, and I was running the old Raspberry Pi versions. I have all the controllers now, and Mongo had done something. That was all I could tell.
Interesting.
But yeah, like other than that, if you just buy the hardware, which I do now, it's really good.
So there you go, Dax. You've got an upgrade path.
Do it.
One of us. One of us. One of us. Come on, join us.
Well, I mean, so the power of Ethernet thing is super cool because I feel like finally there's like some amount of standardization happening where you like can kind of rely on just one thing. That said, my house is 100 years old, so
yeah, mine is too.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
The wiring situation.
Yeah, like Victorian. They're built like crap. Like wood is a ridiculously bad building material.
Sam, did you like have it retroactively wired?
A lot of it, not into some places, but most of it. It's annoying. Like I didn't do enough planning.
Yes,
I could have got it all done. If you don't know,
I wish I had way more.
Yeah, exactly.
And I built my home like in the last few years, and I wish I would have thought about the camera situation. Thought about like there's a lot of things I just didn't pre-plan enough.
Yeah, you need to do 10 gig. It's annoying that normal houses don't come with risers and cable trays. It's really annoying. It'd be so much more.
My experience is so I swapped out one of my switches in this office with a smart one, and I opened it, and there's just two wires going into the switch. There's no ground. There's no like I think there's like 4 wires coming out of it for all the different things. So it's literally like if something like gets loose and touches the wrong thing, it's electrocuting me, and the whole house is set up that way. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But I will say my house is built pretty well. Like it's been through several hurricanes. Like
nice.
And it's like for how old it is, it's in pretty good condition. But the modern houses that are built around here are not built quite well. So
yeah, it's very surprising. Yeah. I was talking to one of my closest friends who's German, and he was like, I called the plumber. He was like, "Did you ever call plumbers when you lived in England?" And I was like. No, I never have, and I've called like 10 while I'm here. I swear they know that. I swear there's some collusion going on. They just build houses terribly so that you rely on people constantly.
Alternate theory: maybe the food here results in more wear and tear on the plumbing.
Yeah, we don't really.
It's an end problem.
There's no good Mexican food in England. Like. Have you seen that? Yeah, one of my favorite tweets is. The biggest shame is that they don't have Toto toilets. It's the biggest shame is that they don't have Mexican food in Japan. Why own a Ferrari if you're not going to take it to the racetrack?
Yeah, I did see that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and you live in Southern California. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
the thing.
a
Adam, I'm
problem.
going to change your life if you don't know about the thing I'm about to tell you about.
Ooh.
And I've used them everywhere. You can buy like 12-volt, 18-volt power adapters that take a PoE input. Have you seen these? And they output.
No.
They take and they output another Ethernet connection and a power. So you can take any of your Ethernet powered, like small kind of, I don't know, like Philips Hue or whatever,
Yeah.
PoE that shit, and reboot it from anywhere in the world.
That's so cool.
Dax is on the Unify website right now. Buy it. It's really good. So because I bought I bought a non-Unify doorbell, and I can just like reboot it from here. It's really cool.
That's so
Nice. So speaking of food and Mexican food, Adam, have you seen all the pictures I've been posting?
cool. Oh yeah, the meat. You do post a lot of pictures of meat. I've noticed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to tag you. I usually tag you whenever I post a picture of meat, but I forgot the last couple of days. So I'm
Thanks.
one of my first messages to Sam ever was because Sam, you cook a lot of meat. Like you post a lot of pictures of.
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to cook less meat now, but I do cook a lot of food. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So Sam used to post a bunch of pictures of like these crazy steaks he'd make, and I asked him about his searing technique because I think you use a torch, right?
It highly depends. I've tried every method. I've got one that I like the most, but I do have a torch to do it. Yeah, use it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So what I've been doing for this week, I'm trying to eat like just meat for a week to see how I feel.
Yeah.
Oh right, I saw that tweet.
To offend Adam as much as possible, or just to counterbalance Adam's veganness and then all of that. So I went and I bought like a whole tenderloin and I cut it up, vacuum sealed it, and I can drop it straight into the sous vide, which is so convenient. Like after this, I'm gonna go just drop it in, and then
What is Sous Vide? I saw that tweet.
You should get one. I'm very surprised that you don't have one, Adam.
I believe sous vide is French for under vacuum, and what it means is you like vacuum pack food. You have a water bath, and then you have the sous vide circulator that keeps that water bath very consistent at temperature.
It's at a precise temperature. It can be like half a degree precision. Yeah.
Wow.
Like professional ovens are extremely expensive because the airflow in a regular, even if you buy like a fancy oven in a home oven, the airflow sucks. Like people test this by like lay bread out on trays and just cook it for the middle will be like black, the sides won't be. It's very hard. So like in professional kitchens, they use steam ovens. Those ovens actually dissipate steam. I did buy a steam oven.
Yeah.
It was quite bad. So
I did too.
Yeah.
I had one that was like a Gaggenau steam oven that we loved in our last house, and we didn't do it in this one, and we miss it. It was amazing.
Because air's not efficient for transferring heat, right? Like, and so the sous vide takes that to a whole other extreme, which is you are just submerged in the same temperature water. But it has other benefits, which is it's kind of impossible to overcook something. You can definitely turn it to a mush, right? Like you can just break the fibers down too much and it becomes mushy. But
you have to leave it in there for a long time, though. It's like if it's done in an hour and you wait like 4 hours, then it'll start to mess up. Yeah.
But it's kind of like you just can't really fuck it up, and you just kind of.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Is
it like a crock pot size thing that you have, Dax? Like, what is the?
No, so the actual device is just this like cylinder, and you can clip it onto anything that can contain water. So I just use like a big metal pot.
Oh, okay.
And like the reason I'm surprised they're not more popular is so we have a really crazy one, but you can just get a pretty good one for like $70, and it guarantees like just way better quality that you can probably like you can achieve it if you're like very good at cooking a steak on a pan, but this like guarantees that you get like professional chef level quality automatically every single time. Like you just can't mess it up. And then there's so many things you can make with it. Like it's not just for meat. Like people make all kinds of stuff with it, and it's one of those things where it's like that weird sciencey part of food where they like just went at the engineering science angle on it, and they actually it is like a crazy achievement. Like it does work perfectly, and there's like almost no trade-offs. Restaurants use it too. Like professional restaurants often sous vide a lot of the food that you eat. just
Very
because it's so easy and consistent. Yeah.
And it also solves a timing problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can leave a lot
Ah.
of basically finished food for a long period of time warm.
Yeah.
And so you can just like take it out.
Pull it out
Interesting.
whenever you need it. Yeah.
So you also have to have like a way to vacuum seal stuff.
You
Is
You
that
don't
like
have to vacuum seal it. That definitely
Okay.
like makes it better. But I only got a vacuum sealer this past week, and I've had this sous vide for like 3 years.
No, okay.
Yeah. So you can just put it in a bag, and like there's like a method to get most of the air out, and then you drop it in.
I am a sucker
But
for
yeah.
kitchen contraptions. Like
Same.
kitchen stores are one of my favorite places. It's
I
so
will
fun.
admit to owning 3 sous vides. It's the worst thing.
Yeah, I'm on number 2.
You
Yeah,
just
this
more elaborate stuff.
Again, this is a space thing. So like my parents' house, which is like a very suburban house, they just have infinite space for every single kitchen gadget. And I feel like this, like all my friends, when you go to their parents' house, they just have like everything, like every little thing that they'll use like once a year, they just have it. Whereas
Yeah.
for me, it's like a big, are we like committing to this or not? Like,
Yeah.
the vacuum sealer, I'm committing to it. We're getting it, but I can't just get every little thing because
Yeah.
my space is limited.
Single-use kitchen items are the worst thing ever, though. Like someone gifted us like an avocado slicer, and I
Okay, it's funny because that is the one single-use kitchen item thing that I have, and I actually love it because we eat a lot of
What?
avocados.
How does it work? What does it do that's special for an
It's
avocado?
so stupid. It's totally unnecessary.
I just cut avocados in half and then I like get the pit out and I'm
yeah,
done.
yeah, exactly.
That's all this does.
My wife brought it in to get. She was like, "We got an avocado slicer," and I was like, "It's called a knife," and just put it in the pile. Like to put it in for donations, we just donated it because it was just like I'm not even unpackaging. That's not saying that. So I'm like, loads. Yeah.
There has to be like a giant group of people that are churning out these kitchen innovations though, because there's so many new things. Every time you go to a kitchen store, they've come up with some new thing.
Mhm.
I've never met somebody that like designs kitchen appliances.
It's
Do you guys
Shark
know-
Tank. It's like all Shark Tank products. If you go watch pitches on Shark Tank, like 70% of it is just plastic shaped into like a shape that no one's
Yeah.
done before.
Yeah.
And then it's just that over and over and over. And yeah,
Correct.
people keep coming up with new stuff.
And that
It's,
package can end up in your balls because like you're just doing this all the time.
Yeah.
I keep
But,
seeing
this-
microplastics. Like every article, every time I open my phone, I see an article about microplastics. Maybe because I clicked on one and now like they just keep coming up. But it's like, is this a new phenomenon or is it like they're just
I feel
discovering
like
it?
every article is like microplastics. We figured out they're literally everywhere. Does it mean anything? We don't know at all.
Yeah, I haven't seen like the conclusive like what have we gleaned from
It
this?
is bad.
I've just
It's
seen
like,
a lot of it.
It's like endocrine like disrupting, and there's like often they've now started like I believe I would have to check, but I think they've started to actually found it. You know, like when people get plaque buildup in their heart, and
Oh yeah.
they've actually seen it contribute to that now.
Oh
It's
jeez.
very bad. Like it's extremely bad. Where
They
everything-
just need to. Oh, go ahead.
No, okay, you go. Sorry, I'm bad at
Well, I
this.
was just gonna say they need to come up with like something that goes in and eats all the plastic, and then
Yeah.
like we use it in the oceans, we use it in our bodies.
Yeah,
What
To
could
me,
do that?
this feels like a like an impossible problem. It's like I think it's like at a crazy microscopic level, and it's literally everywhere already, right? It's
Mm.
it's
yeah, like
terrible. Yeah.
don't know what the solution to that's going to look like.
It is a big concern. It is it like genuinely is. My wife, she's a scientist. She does drug development, and she works on cures, and she obviously can read scientific papers and whatever. And like this is one thing she's definitely like worried about. Like ever since we got a kid, everything's glass or silicone, and it's just no
Yeah.
toys you can't avoid. Like we bought all the wooden like Montessori
Yeah.
whatever toys. They hate them. Like they're just like we
They're
went.
not always as good, are they?
No,
Like,
we went-
the
yeah.
Melissa and Doug and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to like a Diwali party and all the kids were playing and they'd all brought their own toys. And I just saw his like eyes light up when he saw like a fire engine toy.
Yeah.
I literally I left the party, went to Target, and I was like, give up, and just gave him like a police car and whatever because he never had this simulator, and he just because he only had wooden toys, and he just lost his mind, and like so I just gave up on the plastics for the toy stuff, and obviously Lego and stuff, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, my boys
I guess
love Lego.
that is the one place where plastic is good, but I feel like in most of the world, like way too much shit is made of plastic, and I feel like it's just like bad vibes. I feel like everything just kind of looks crappier than it would have 50
Yeah.
years ago.
There's a lot of high-end plastics now, though. Porsche have put plastics all over their cars now because if you build high-end plastics, you have an amazing weight to strength ratio and flexibility. Like they do tons of high-end plastics now that are really very useful.
So is the like timeline such that we don't like the jury's not out on what plastic might be doing to us because it's not been around long enough? Like I feel like plastic's been around a long time, but is it just to the quantities that we see today? Like, do we not know yet the impact on humans over some amount of time?
Well, we know it's bad. We know it's very
okay.
bad. And it's also volume. It's literally everywhere. Like you microwave a takeout container, you're blasting microplastics into your food. You know, manufacturing, right? Any fermented foods are put in giant industrial plastic barrels, right? Like,
geez, I love fermented foods.
Another thing to know is a lot of chemicals in a lot of American products are banned in Europe. There's a lot more allowed here than is other places because they've already proven it.
So are we going to learn that like our generation in America is going to all like die at 55 or something? What should I be nervous about? What am I worried about right now? Or just like diseases that we would have don't worry.
I would say you're definitely going to die. To just worry about enjoying every minute till you have it.
It's a good call.
It turns out cold plunges neutralize plastics entirely.
Oh, nice. Okay.
They're now finding data there's new data on cold plunges that shows that it does too much aggravation of your nervous system and might actually.
No, I'm getting killed in every possible way.
That is why it's extremely annoying to be married to a scientist because you get no hope. You find something and you're like, you text it to her and like, this is awesome. And she's like, I read the paper. It's complete bullshit. Or they don't, like the amount of studies the press do a terrible job with this. And there's this Twitter account. All it does is reply to articles and say in mice, because all of these the news pick up on like loads of things, and it's always the last thing in mice. It's always proved or cured in mice, and so it's relevant, but nowhere near done in terms of relevance.
It makes me wish I was a mouse because I feel like we've made mice immortal at this point. I feel we've solved every possible mice problem.
Do you want to know something really weird related to this? At work, she has catalogs where she can order diseases and people's DNA and people's blood cells. And there's like specific people that there's one woman that like donated blood, I believe, and or donated some cell that has been grown.
Yeah, it's a cancer one, right? I heard about this. Right.
Yeah. And so she can literally say like, I would like the blood of a HIV positive Hispanic male, and she can get it mailed to like.
Wow,
that's so crazy.
I want to buy the tissue from a cancer cell that was grown in this animal straight through the mail. It's wild.
So the one with the woman, this woman's been dead for a long time, but they can keep reproducing her cancer cells.
Yep.
So she like still exists in this weird way.
Whoa.
Yeah, just used for research.
Legacy.
It's really
wild.
Did you say it was a catalog, like a physical, like JCPenney holiday catalog, like it's a physical book?
Literally, she's got like the paper copy and can go on the website. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
That's wild. I never thought about that though. Like if you're a scientist and there's lots of them out there, they need access to the things that they need to do experiments. So I guess it makes sense that there'd be. Now I gotta know. Like the public can't get a hold of this. I guess you have to have like your science card or something.
Science card.
Science card.
Like if I want to order this.
I don't know actually. I'm gonna ask her. I'll see what. I'll let you know. I'll see what we can. Okay. But it's a funny world. Like science is so funny because it's the literal opposite of tech, like just in every way, all the pressures and dynamics. And so she has to go to work every day because they have a lab. And because we're like I didn't know these exist, but like we're the center of biotech in, California. And so there's office space in like South San Francisco that are WeWorks for laboratories. So they can rent an office and lab space.
Oh,
just like we can go where we work. And there's like hundreds of these things. Like you can just go and buy lab facilities, like rent them for even a day at a time if you need certain equipment. And the equipment they get insane. It's insane.
The part of New Jersey that I'm from has a bunch of pharma companies there. I don't really know why. Maybe it's just proximity to some of the universities. And we had this crazy case where this woman who was this like crazy, like high paid pharmaceutical researcher, like snuck in and stole something. I forgot what it was, stole some chemical, and she poisoned her husband with it. And he didn't die, but in the hospital, they didn't really believe him that he was like trying to communicate that he thinks his wife poisoned him, but like I don't know, it didn't get across, and she continued to poison him in the hospital, and then he eventually died.
What?
Yeah, and then they caught her at the end of all of it, but yeah, they have access to some crazy stuff.
That is wild.
Yeah,
That's some nerve. She
But
must
be
have
careful,
really wanted him dead
Sam.
to
Be
be
good.
doing it in the hospital.
Yeah,
you might order some HIV for you with your name on it.
yeah, right. Don't want
I did see they've like completely cured HIV now. I saw they like completely rid it on someone.
Yeah, I think
Pretty
they've got a
crazy.
vaccine coming, and it's also been like
Yeah.
they've got biologics that I think it's a biologic that that's another interesting science kind of recentish thing is biologics, but I think it's a biologic that basically I think it's PrEP. If you have any risk of exposure, you take it, and you just have no chance of catching it, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so wild how far it's come compared to where it was. Like it was an immediate death sentence before. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
But because cancer is still just the plague, and it's getting worse.
Mhm.
It's just so hard. It's a lottery for some people. You can be the healthiest person alive, and certain cancers will just get you. Like lung cancer is a fascinating one. Like I think sorry to anyone listening thinking my facts are wrong or whatever, but I believe it's only like 50 to 60% of lung cancers are caused by smoking, and we didn't
Mhm.
really know
Really?
what the rest was. And we've only started to kind of figure out it's cars probably, plus, just it might just happen anyway. Any cell division risks cancer. Like we're just really learning about all these environmental factors. But it's not just like it's just not as obvious. There's so many people that have never touched a cigarette in their life can get it. Like it's horrible, horrible illness.
And
Yeah, I think I saw someone from not exactly in our circle, but I did come across on Twitter, like someone randomly developed like stage 4 like lung cancer, like out of nowhere.
Yep.
By the time he went in, it was like already too late. He was
Yep.
like in his 30s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And are cancer rates actually increasing? This sounds like an obvious fact that I should just know. But
They are, maybe they're not, I don't know if they're fully increasing, but they are increasing lower down the population tree. So like for certain cancers, they just didn't ever bother testing people pre-40 or whatever. You just haven't been around long to develop it. And now they are seeing a whole category of those cancers coming way down in younger people, which is probably things like the microplastics and things
that's
like
what I wonder. Yeah.
environmental state that we're in. We may cure it one day, but we still don't know enough about it. Like Akanksha, was explained to me the other day, there's still some division in belief of whether there's a cancer stem cell or not, like whether they can actually, like, they don't fully know why people get cancer back. And it could just be it's very hard to find a cell. And that's why even some of these treatments like are kind of risky. There's a lot of treatments now that people take for, you injure yourself and they like kind of take out stem cells or
your blood and inject it back in. Yeah.
There's a real risk to those, by the way, because mismodifying a cells don't die. Every drug has a half-life. A drug, if they can keep you alive, the wrong drug gets you, it will just flush out of your system. Cells can technically live forever inside your body. So if a cell was doing the wrong thing, you could be in real trouble. And so one of the theories, and not fully proven, that cancer comes back because of stem cells. Again, could be wrong, but like I know there's still just real divisions as to why some of these things happen.
Yeah, it's wild that it can literally just be a single cell and you have so many of them. Like, It's crazy. I mean, think about it that way. It's crazy that like it goes right in most cases, It's a wild number of cell divisions that are happening and most of them go correctly. It's pretty insane.
But it is why some kids get cancer, right? Because they are just a constant cell division machine until they've fully gone.
Oh, interesting.
You're just
higher rates of interesting.
Yeah, you just risk a copying error or whatever.
Well, now I'm depressed. I don't know.
Don't
We
be
gonna talk about
depressed.
anything else?
What's
that?
You are alive at the right time. That if you live healthy, you can probably get quite a long life extension based on the kind of medicine and drugs that we
Like
have.
even despite all of this,
Yeah, I mean,
despite cancer rates,
unless you're cold plunging, because cold plunging increases your cancer rates by 10x.
Yeah, correct. They literally say that actually in mice. In mice, they've only done it in mice. But I think the other thing with the other issue is like a lot of this is on mass population studies, right? And us and everyone who's probably listening to this podcast lives significantly better than 99% of the population in terms of pretty much everything. And
we have hammocks. I
we
mean,
have hammocks, right? Like, exactly.
first world problems.
Unify controllers.
Unify control. Exactly.
You show a 15th century peasant a Unify controller and they would lose their minds. They would absolutely lose their minds.
You know what actually bums me out? I always picture, like, imagine you're George Washington and you like did this crazy thing where you fought revolution and then you like started a country. And at that point, it's like basically nothing. It's like nothing. And then you die.
Yeah.
It sucks that he didn't get to see that it worked out, right? It's like, it's so wild that he had no idea how well it worked out, which is a sad thought.
I had never considered that.
Founded the greatest country ever and doesn't even know it.
Huh.
Yeah.
I just
and like
heard
a lot of people didn't know it. Like it wasn't good until like maybe in the last 100 years. So all the people involved just had no idea.
Yeah.
The founding fathers didn't know dinosaurs existed, right? We've discovered them since.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like they didn't know.
No,
Is that not right?
They didn't know. Well, like Chinese mythology, like didn't all that come from finding dinosaur bones?
Yeah, throughout history, there's been lots of references. Like some people believe that's like kind of maybe where people thought dragons came from or whatever.
Right.
Also they've been fairly easy to find in a lot of places.
Well, yeah. What I heard, I don't remember where I heard this, but that like people had been discovering dinosaur bones for a long time, but nobody had put together like what they were until like the last, I don't know, 150 years or something. Like there was no name for a dinosaur until sometime in recent modern history.
Open a textbook in Kentucky and it's the same situation. Like,
jeez. Oh, I love it.
I think the explanation is the devil put them in the ground to trick.
Yeah. I never thought about the dragon thing. Like dragons do seem so much like dinosaurs, and it makes sense that the people long ago that were dreaming up dragons had probably seen dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the artist renditions where they give artists skulls of things like rhinos and elephants?
Oh yeah.
And we have artists try to draw what it is, and it just comes out so crazy because the animals look nothing like. You would never like an elephant skull looks hilarious. It like looks really funny and weird. You would never know there was this giant trunk thing coming out of its head. Based off of the bones.
Yeah.
It's
look,
wild.
Look at what they really think T-Rex looked like. Stupid animal. Like
I know. Did you see the newest? Like all those like Human Planet, Blue Planet, like all that series, the David Attenborough ones. They did one for Prehistoric Planet. And it's like our latest conception of a T-Rex, and it looks so lame.
Yeah.
It's like the lamest thing ever. You got these tiny arms, and like it's not like aerodynamic or anything like it was in Jurassic Park. It's not great.
Such a letdown.
Yeah.
I guess if you drew a human from a skull, you wouldn't draw the nose.
Huh.
That's true.
You wouldn't have it, right? It's like, It's not easy.
There's nothing there to go off of.
One of my colleagues who I've worked with for a decade now, 11 years now, from the GitHub days all the way through PlanetScale. His wife has my like dream job because I love history. She's like an archaeologist. She's very famous in her field. She's got loads of Twitter followers. Like it just really, she digs up bodies to study like their bones, like the chemical and everything, to just discover how they lived. And they can find out an unbelievable amount of stuff. And it's incredible what they can learn. And she went to Pompeii and like dug up one of like the really famous villas there and found loads of stuff. And it's just so interesting. It's like amazing what you can learn from these stuff. And it's phenomenal when you like read like kind of what we're learning about history just by looking at bones. Like it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Yeah. It's crazy how they like find these little hints and they can kind of connect the dots and draw like a pretty big conclusion. Because there's so little left, you'd think it'd be hard to know some of this stuff. But yeah, I guess if you like stare at it long enough, you can figure it out. I mean, even with the dinosaur stuff, a lot of it is just looking at animals now and like understanding that, okay, some of these properties could have existed and some of this behavior could have existed. The other thing was, have you seen, I don't know how recent this is, but I came across this more recently, all the theories about like South America and like the ancient civilizations that were there. So I think we think of South American history as like kind of what you imagine in movies and TV, like the Mayans and the Aztecs and whatever, and like that level of society they had. They believe that there was maybe a more advanced society prior to that, like on the level of like Rome, that collapsed, and then everything we know about was like people living in like a post-apocalyptic type of environment, because they found like streets, like lined streets. They found like all this stuff that is more advanced than what the civilizations that we know of, how they operated.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Like that, like totally changes your perception of like what the world was like.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now I can't. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, go ahead.
No, they get to hear, people on this podcast get to hear me talk all the time. They don't get to hear more.
I was going to say two things. There's an amazing fact that Oxford University started teaching lessons before the Aztec Empire started. Like the Aztec Empire has been and gone. It was like 1008 they started teaching at Oxford.
It's insane.
It's wild. And another thing I always find fascinating is the Romans were obsessed with the Egyptians like we are the Romans, because they were 2,000 years apart. They look back at that and be like, wow, ancient, civilized. They were fascinated. And obviously for us. It's kind of wild.
So now I can't stop thinking about what like 1,000 years from now they're gonna think we did. We like have our whatever's left of like our Sony cameras and our Elgato key lights at our desks. Like
they're gonna run NPM once and just be like, forget it, put it all back, put it all back in the vault, give up.
It's like that. I guess you were at GitHub. That GitHub. What was that thing you guys did? The code archive or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The code vault.
Yeah.
What was that? I never really listened to it.
They took a snapshot of all of the open source repositories that met a certain criteria, and then spooled it onto this tape that can last like 1,000 years, and buried it in a mine type vault near the seed vault in the Arctic.
Oh, the seed vault, yeah.
It was very, obviously, I think it was like a very cool, interesting, fun thing to do as like humans. But now there's like old versions of Bundler sat on some tapes. Just
well, I feel like when because I didn't like a lot of code got in there. Like I have that badge in GitHub, and I'm like, I don't think I had anything public that I really wanted to last all the time at that point. Like I don't think I was good enough at that point. Like maybe now I'd be a little more okay with it, but I guess it's there forever.
Sure.
I don't know if people will look back, because like what's different is we don't have 100% clarity on information, and that's like a lot of the mystery of it. Like I always think about how my kids will have crazy detailed documentation of what I looked like at every single point of my life, pretty much, and like what my life was like, and records of my conversations and all of it. Whereas I know like basically nothing about my parents and going backwards. So yeah, it definitely changes things a bunch.
Well, we'll know about us. They'll know about themselves as well, because we take pictures of them with our iPhones all the time.
Yeah.
Within this first month, there was probably more pictures taken of our kid than ever was taken of me as a child.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like, Sam, you do database stuff. I feel like you're going to have an informed answer to this question. I've never thought about this before, but like we talk about the doomsday clock and like the chances of a civilization just destroying itself. Is there like some chance that like all the data that exists out there right now just gets wiped out for some reason at some point in history? Like, is there a similar risk where we're all fine, but we lose like all of this?
Wouldn't it be like I don't know, it'd have to be like a massive electromagnetic pulse?
That's what I was thinking, I guess. Yeah, like I know of those, but I didn't know if there's other risks that I just don't know about. Like, it just seems crazy to think.
Depends how many availability zones you're running in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I guess it just seems crazy to think like 500 years from now,
there's
not some chance that all this data has gone somewhere, disappeared.
I mean, I think people have already lost a load of data from archiving that they wish they had back in the age of AI, right? Like people just used to, like a lot of people, like, we sometimes get customers that we'll talk to, and the trade-off for them, like if they're not very large, the trade-off for them is like, maybe we'll make a product decision to delete some data, maybe to like stave off having to go scale. but we have a big emphasis on like consumer products, basically, because consumer experiences are ruined without data. Like if like Strava can't archive your best run,
Right.
just because it was 5 years ago, you're going to remember that. Like consumer experiences, you remember a lot more. But some people, and because of technical limitations, especially in the kind of data center age, the early data center age, you just got rid of data, and we've probably lost a load of really cool things because of that. A really sad thing, is that we've lost great internet sites.
Hmm.
Like there's
Oh,
just
was
so
Adam
many
frozen?
blogs, and I think Adam's gone. Yeah, he looks pensive in this picture. He looks.
Yeah, I know. He looks really affected by what you're talking about.
Bless him. Yeah. So, oh yeah, he's fully gone. We can resume when it comes back. I
Yeah.
assume. How much do you edit this, by the way? Do you chop it around much?
We have an editor that does a bunch of work, so it's not like crazy edited, but it's just cleaned up for the most part. He's pretty good though.
Hi, editor. Hi, editor. I said hi to the editor. Thank you for editing my nonsense.
Yeah, the data thing's crazy because I have this like visceral image I get where sometimes I think about it and I'm like, I'm hitting the camera button on my phone, I'm taking a picture, it's getting uploaded to the cloud. That's like ending up on some hard drive. It's someone's job. It's some team's job just to keep like manufacturing and installing these hard drives over and over and over. And I'm like, can this really go on infinitely? Like, is my data really going to be there forever? Or at some point, does it need to get reclaimed? Because like the whole world is constantly uploading a crazy amount of data every single day. And we're able to keep up with it, but it feels weird, you know?
I can actually answer this quite well because I worked at Facebook. And I can tell you that old data at Facebook eventually goes to tape. It goes that far. And Facebook has like another tier of cold storage that is so cold that if it's not being accessed, the disk literally spins down. And when it gets access, it will wake itself back up. So it goes on like very large spinning platters and gets spun down to store all this stuff. The hilarious thing is like the highest load peak, and from kind of like October onwards, everyone's preparing for New Year's Eve, so that the entire world can send us a blurry, shitty video of a firework. Like, but the scale is absolutely insane. A fact I had two teams. I had the edge, like the traffic team, basically, that did all of the 12% of the planet's internet is Facebook alone. And then the other team I had was the video infrastructure team, which is our infrastructure was what received, and everything's custom at Facebook. Like inside WhatsApp and Facebook, the video, out codec, whatever video format is custom to Facebook. They have their own networking, like it's moving to quick, but it's like an own networking stack that's in every client. Because you have things like, we have like services like Cartographer. Because when you go on vacation, we now need to start serving you stuff more locally to you, but not forever. We don't want to move your database. So like the app can ask where to go, and that's all done and managed automatically through like APIs inside the apps. It's all custom. But there is more. It is an insane fact. There are more servers at Facebook that receive, process, and put images on blob storage than the entire of Azure.
Wow. That is really wild.
There's one node class, and it's more machines than all of Azure globally.
That's insane.
It's a whole.
Well, you said 12% of internet traffic is Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
This is why this is so crazy to me, because your point is, yeah, most of that stuff is garbage and never going to be needed. Like, it's never really going to be needed again. Like 99.9% of it is never really going to be needed again. We have to store it all just in case it is. And this feels like, is the whole world just going to be like a giant hard drive at one point? Like,
this is how I always thought about dead people. Like, how do we not run out of space to bury people?
Yeah,
like
they decompose.
Yeah.
So then we just reuse the space. We just ew.
Well, that's like a weird thing, right? Like, let's say you buy a funeral plot.
Yeah.
Like, what's your right on that? You're buying it forever? Like, but then who's there to defend it if someone claims it? You know?
In the UK, you always see these like big construction projects getting delayed because it's very hard to dig deep into the ground in the UK, and like
there's a lot of
not find dead people. And so, like, there was a mystery of, like, I think King Richard III disappeared. They found him under a parking lot. Like, it's
Are you
like
serious?
seriously. And so, but the other one, like, there was like a tube station being built in London, and they accidentally dug into like a grave site of a monastery that's been there for like 1,000 years. So it's like they had to respectfully move hundreds of dead monks somewhere else so they could build this train, because you have to just, like, eventually you want to be respectful, but you kind of got to be like, there's other shit to do now, guys. You're long dead. Like, and shift you
Yeah,
up.
it's weird. So when I lived in when I was in New York, my apartment there, it's right next to Trinity Church. And if you've seen National Treasure, the final scene of National Treasure is in Trinity Church when they go under it into that crazy tunnel. But what's wild is it's literally like next to the World Trade Center. Like, if you're buried there, your grave is facing like the World Trade Center. And some of those graves are there from like the 1600s. Like, I think Alexander Hamilton's also buried there. Whoa. And I'm like, these people were buried so long ago, and they have again, the same thing. They have no idea they have this like insane plot of land. Like, they're buried in this crazy spot. I'm like, at some point, this can't be there forever. Maybe Alexander Hamilton, he's famous and relevant, but it's just like these random people that have like almost unmarked graves that are right next to it, and it's in this wild location.
Yep. You could just mow it over and build a Barry's boot camp. It would just be it would just be so much more useful.
I don't. Go ahead.
Carol, sorry. Go.
No, I was gonna say, I don't understand. I have to look into it, because I do wonder what like the legal stuff is. So when you buy a plot, like, is it a lease for some amount of time? Must be right.
Basically, all land leasehold technically. Like, aren't we? Isn't it?
Because the government can always take it from you. Yeah.
Eminent domain.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sad thing about history is the recycling that happened, though, right? Because older civilizations didn't care about preserving anything, and some still don't, right? Like I think the really interesting thing about the UK is, even for like 1,000 years, we've actually still been interested in our own history. Like, some of the earliest historians were like Bede in Britain, and so we've always preserved stuff. Like, the oldest house we're talking about old houses. The oldest house I lived in was 550 years old.
Whoa!
Because that's crazy.
My mum used to.
It's older than America.
Yeah, she used to convert houses, right? So it was her job. She bought like old houses, and she converted them, and she converted a chapel as well. So I've lived in a chapel. So that was a good reuse of some like old stuff. But like this 550-year-old house had, up the chimney, they were putting a flue up. They had to put an artificial one up because the bricks were so old, and they were going up. And my stepfather found a 8x8 secret room inside the chimney stack that was from the Reformation, where priests used to go and hide up the chimney to not get found by the Protestants. And so we've preserved history so fantastically well. But the Catholics like destroyed all of the Roman palaces to build St. Peter's Basilica and stuff like that. So we've lost the majority of the amazing artifacts that we've known existed in history. Unfortunately, because of that level of recycling, we're just now getting better at not destroying things and appreciating them.
Yeah, it's wild, because you would think that's so innate, but it's not. So in Miami, there's a bunch of Art Deco stuff here from, I don't know when, maybe like the 50s or 60s. I don't know exactly when it's from. Preserved really well, and it's really cool. But this was not a Miami thing. Miami was planning on just demolishing all of it and building like new stuff. A bunch of people from New York came here, and they were like, no, this is actually cool, and they like fought to put up all this stuff to preserve the Art Deco thing. So yeah, weirdly, like, it's you can be blind to that stuff, I guess, as obvious as it might seem.
You just have to care about preserving it. We still lose artifacts. We lost wasn't it one of the 7 wonders of the world we lost recently?
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Of the ancient world, I think. There's in Afghanistan, these giant carved Buddhas. They're huge and they're beautiful. The Taliban just to piss everyone off. They just like fired mortar shells at them and just destroyed them.
My word!
Oh my god!
I haven't heard this.
It does like revolutions and all of these things. Like, people take big digs at the British Museum, but like, they probably should send the stuff back now. But it's extremely revisionist, because most of those things, like the Elgin marbles, would be gone, and they were bought. A British explorer went to Greece during some sort of socialist thing and said, "Can I buy those?" And they were like, "Sure." Who gives a shit? And just literally bought them. Like, and you know, and then no one knew. Like, and like the Rosetta Stone was like, the French, like, they stole it, but I think probably someone was just like kneading some bread on it. There's some ridiculous stories about this stuff. People using just like crazy things from history that they just found. And yeah, like most of it was just like sold, and a lot was plundered, but it exists today because people take care and look after this stuff.
Yeah, the monument thing is funny because I recently learned that the French sold the Arc de Triomphe to Saudi Arabia. So, which sounds like, what does that even mean? But that's the point, right? Like, it's just free money. You can just sell it to Saudi Arabia. It's still in France. It's not going to move. And technically Saudi Arabia owns it. You know, you just like got free money. I'm sure you can sell it to like 3 other people too, if you want. Yeah.
You can buy insane things. You can buy futures on parking meters in San Francisco. You can buy.
Oh, really?
You can just like buy all of their, like, you give basically 3, 4, or 5 years of forward revenue, and then as prices increase, you can keep the differences.
Yeah, everything's securitized these days. It's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing in New York too. I mean, even just parking spaces in New York go for like $1 million. There's like some like private parking spaces. It's it's crazy.
It's the same story. Like, you can buy.
Yeah,
it's wild. Really wild.
This thing with, I mean, you're from the UK, so you have, like, when you say, like you said, you lived in a house that's 550 years old, like that's impossible here. Like for us, and like Florida is even, like, it's so new. Like nothing here is over 100 years old. Like it just was nothing before then. So yeah, old for us like doesn't really exist compared to you guys.
It's very rare.
Yeah, I was trying to think if I've encountered a man-made object that's older than 100 years old. Probably not. I can't think of what it'd be.
Wait, so where you live, there's not houses older than 100 years old?
I mean, around 100 years old,
okay.
I guess.
I think for me, the oldest in America, there's parts of New York, there's some streets in New York that are from like the Dutch, like the original Dutch settlement. And those are like 1500, something like that, I think. Maybe 1600. I don't know exactly when, but that's probably in America at least. I don't know if it gets older than that, because that's like, yeah.
Well, you've got like adobo kind of houses in, where's that? New Mexico, is it? Like, you've got the kind of more native buildings that are here, that they are pretty old. But for like kind of the modern era of America, I don't know how much there would be. Maybe some artifacts. There's obviously artifacts and stuff that we have here, but yeah, it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
It's funny how different cultures, based on the length of their time, I think it genuinely really affect.
We're just babies in America.
Yeah, young.
We're just little baby civilization.
we're like a kind of growth stage startup of countries now, I guess. We've got
yeah, it's when the bureaucracy comes in. I went to Europe for the first time a couple months ago, and yeah, that was the main thing. Like, we were in Lisbon, and we just, like, everything was just like shockingly old, and it's all like, it all works really well. It looks pretty good. Everything was really small, I will say that. Like, for most of the parts of Lisbon we were in, all the apartments were like just small, and I'm not like a big person, and I'm like, this feels kind of cramped. Like, were humans just smaller back then, or like what was going on?
I love, like, so in this 554, like, I was, a teenager, and I probably like 5'8" at that time, right? Like, I would smash my head off the top of the doors constantly. And it's amazing to think back at history and think of all these great epic battles and tales, and think it's just like 5-foot people running around with swords. It would just be hilarious to watch now. Like,
yeah, I know.
The Battle of Agincourt would just look so funny to us in like modern times. Little people smacking each other. It'd just be amazing.
Yeah, in New York we have the Met, and they have like this armor section, and you see like the badass like Spartan armor. It looks like it's made for a child. It wouldn't even fit me at all. Yeah, correct. And I'm sure they would have still kicked my ass, but it just doesn't fit in your brain. And it's weird because it's not like I'm sure Vikings were still big back then. I'm sure there were some people that were large, but so like when these groups ran into each other, it just must have been hilarious.
It's so funny. There's tales of big people, right? Like, so 1066, there was a Viking berserker. He was like, they talked about him as if he was 7 foot tall. He stood on a bridge and like held like 20 people. I've killed 20 men before. Finally, someone snuck under the bridge and got him, but like speared him. But like, yeah, there's stories of these berserkers. I also lived in India. I grew up there for a period of my life, and I love going back. I go back every year, and you know, you can go to Jaipur and go to the fort, and they look back at this kind of there's like Rajasthani kings, and
Mhm.
they were huge. They were giant. They're like, one of the princes was just massive, and they had his sword, and it was like, you just look at it and you just, I couldn't pick this up. Like, I would have to like properly like pick, like, this is like the fact someone wielded that,
Yeah.
was like 7 foot tall, was just unbelievable, because they just had these like random giant people
Yeah.
throughout history.
Well, that's the funny thing about India, is because there's just like, I think there's like a wide range of genetics, I feel like, in some ways. Like, I'm from the south, so yeah, everyone's like pretty small.
Yeah.
But like on the north side, like Punjab, like those people can get huge, but we're all the same race.
Yeah.
But then if you go look at who's in the army, it's like just one subsection of the country, because they're all just way bigger than the rest of us.
Yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
it, like caste system did a lot of that.
That's
Who's
true,
the
yeah.
Brahmins? Who's the warrior class? What's the one just below Brahmin?
I don't have this memorized.
I don't. They're all big. They're all
Me
big.
neither.
Just
Yeah.
genetically, it's selection. Like, you just eventually like like
Yeah.
societal roles will select for these traits over time. You know,
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah. So just shifting gears a little bit. So PlanetScale stuff. What's going on there?
This week has been amazing. I'm actually a little tired right now. I was up till 2 working last night, 11 the night before, and 2 again on Monday with colleagues. We've unlocked a few things that we are insanely excited. Like, we've had a shift. I won't tell you now. I will tell you both after this. We've had quite a shift, and so we're very excited. We've just moved some very large databases onto our cloud platform, which was very
I
fun.
see you tweet some of that sometimes. The numbers just blow
Correct.
my mind.
Yeah. It's actually, going back to like scale, Facebook scale, stuff like that, is one of my biggest learnings, personal growth learnings, is there is 0 point talking about like your trade-offs that you've made for scalability to people that don't give a shit about it. Like, they just don't care. They don't understand what it means to scale. I get it. It's fine. They haven't seen it. But like, once you see that stuff and the size, like, people used to complain about us, like the minimum cost of a database, right? Well, the way our architecture looks, it's all in service of, we actually have some databases that have 10,000 nodes just in that one cluster, right?
Yeah.
And so we've made all the trade-offs for making that work, and the bottom, like, I don't care about the like $29 one.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see a lot more from us in terms of we've got some incredibly cool at scale stories and benchmarks and proof points and stuff to show. So it's been really fun. It's been really good to do those things.
It's interesting. Like, I hadn't thought about the scale situation from a PlanetScale perspective. Like, you have to scale with all of your customers, which is interesting. Like, it's not like a vertical situation where you have to worry about this one company, like Facebook, crazy scale.
Yeah.
But PlanetScale, like, is it's the cumulative total of all of your customer scale, which is kind of nuts. Like, different types of problems, I guess.
Absolutely. And it's very fun though, because we know about games launches for major blockbuster games.
Yeah.
Because they tell us, right? We know, like, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is a hilarious time at PlanetScale. We have one customer. They send like the 3rd largest amount of text messages in America. Can you guess the first 2? Twilio's number 1. Who's in the middle between?
Oh, geez.
Huh. I have no idea.
Uber sends the second.
Really?
Oh, interesting.
And so their biggest, like so much of their business is made up between Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like, it's just such a big deal for retail, basically. And now we've got like a lot of retail customers. So for all these kind of retail like, their load graph the Thursday before just goes vertical and just doesn't change. Like, it's just like 500,000 queries a second. And then the Tuesday just goes, whoop, just drops straight off. And so it's fun to see. I mean, you learn about like customers' products and stuff they're doing, and it's just real fun. It's actually really fun. We've now got some very big consumer apps that run on PlanetScale, so buying a coffee is a little stressful for me now and then. If it doesn't go wrong, I'd be if it doesn't happen, I'd go straight to my laptop. Like, there's like
it's something.
There's some stressful things about it. I think like we calculated if we had a full like global outage, which we've actually never caused a customer a full outage, which is incredible. If we did a full global outage, we'd take down about 150 billion of market cap instantly if we went down.
Oh,
So we take that so seriously, and so that's why
yeah.
again everything is done in scale. It's just like so refined to do certain operations that are normally scary. Like we have to do about 100,000 database failures a week just because we have to roll versions and we have to do whatever. And so normally like a database failover is like a massive thing for people to deal with. It just kind of rolls, right? It just kind of goes through it.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's no one, you can't just like, that's not a shiny feature, right? You can't do a launch week about, well, we can roll, you know what I mean? Like we can do these
Yeah.
and scale.
Yeah, it's stuff that has to be invisible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that's a whole marvel how invisible it is.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that we focus on now, the customers we focus on now, they have problems that require that solution and they love it. They pay for it. It just works. Like they have businesses that are just ripping in growth and it's not stopping. You have to fix it. The database has to happen, right? And so it's much nicer to focus on that end of the market because we also work with customers where we've worked at that company before, or like some of our employees have worked at that company. And I've said to people, we've got the guy that like invented online schema changes. He works here. Would you hire him? Obviously. Like, why wouldn't you build the thing like 60 of his friends have been building with him and just buy that, right? Like, so it's a very, when you work with people that truly, their other choice is doing it themselves, they really learn what you're actually doing for them. It's impossible to do that for a hobbyist. Like they just don't, it's like, how cheap is it is the only thing they care about, or free,
Yeah. So it brings up a question that I had. So there's obviously, those are two ends of the market, right? Like, crazy scale and the people that are, there's looking for something that's effectively free.
Yeah.
I don't fall into either end. So how do you guys think about like the mid-level people that are never going to have scale, but they're not complaining they're paying a couple $100 a month for a database either? Is that like just wondering how you think about that.
Like which camp are they lumped more into in your eyes, I guess? Like, do you view them more like the indie hacker types, or do you view them more like
because you're clearly running a business on it, and our intrinsic motivation is to not cause outages for anyone that trusts us, basically. Like, we care about that so much. But the rising tide raises all boats, and you benefit from things that have been built for so many other people, and we can like hand that down to you. You were at the beginning of the thing I really obsess about, which is the graduation curve from startup to public company with a petabyte of data in your relational database. And we want to unlock those so it feels very gradual, because no database product has ever done that.
Mm-hmm.
If your company takes off, it is an inevitable guarantee you will replace your database, or you will have to significantly. The database at GitHub, the database was harder than the Git stack. And you can't buy an O'Reilly book on scaling Git platforms. Like if anyone was going to write it, it would have been us. And we wrote a one-off distributed system. He works at PlanetScale as well, the guy who built that. Like this one-off distributed system that hosts all of the world's code. And that was easier than scaling relational databases. Every company runs into this, and they use like when you have that middle year, and we work with a lot of companies in that middle year of like, we're a real deal now. That year's lost, because only going back to your customers not being mad at you, you've shipped nothing. Mm-hmm. And so that's a year out of it's what, 10 to 13 years you get limited to build a company. Mm-hmm. So it's 10% gone because of database problems. I want to eliminate that in the long run. Like hopefully it feels obvious to you that you use PlanetScale because it makes you more productive. You're not scared. I hope you're not scared of your database down. Like that's the if you. I hope you know you can like eat a schema change into production and it's like gonna work. Like that's like the first thing. And again, we do stuff under the hood. Like we rate limit you if you like try sending a high amount of traffic during a schema change. We'll turn the schema change down and do all this sort of stuff to make it stable. The idea is you should build super fast because you're unlocked to do so, and you can do schema change, you can do whatever you want, and your database isn't breaking. And then we want, as you start to take off, that become very progressive. And so very soon, you'll see, everyone have the ability to shard in the UI. That has been a very hard thing to do. extremely hard. Vitesse is so complicated. There is hundreds of flags for single commands to do very complicated things. We have to choose so that's the long-term vision of PlanetScale is we have the tech that ran YouTube, 70,000 servers, 20 data centers. Some of the largest relational databases on Earth run in Vitesse. Bring that to people in a way that they're starting on the eventual state, but it feels like they're on the hottest new thing, and they will just ride that graduation curve as they go. That is the thing that gets me most excited about building a database company, because I've seen and lived through many companies having database hell.
Yeah.
I wish there were companies in every category doing that, because I do think there's a whole lot of dev platformy things that they don't have that, and people just don't even know that they're kind of like set up for this year of pain that you described for whatever, their web hosting or whatever else.
Yeah.
So on the other side, I guess there's always this assumption that, PlanetScale exists, therefore there's going to be like a Postgres equivalent. And I remember Citus being a thing. I think they got acquired by Azure, and then it like just didn't work out. Do you have a sense of why there isn't like something on the other side?
Yeah, there's multiple reasons. So it starts off with, if there's going to be a PlanetScale for Postgres, it will be built by PlanetScale, because the intangibles, the things we know, the experience we have running operations at scale, like every single person in the engineering team has worked at one of the largest websites on Earth, basically. Like every single one of us. We have the first our VP of infra, he was the first infrastructure hire at Instagram. Like, we have just been around for a very long time. A load of us built GitHub. Like, we know this shit. One, very hard to assail that. Two, Vitesse is so mature. It is nearly 2 million, I think, or it's like 1 million or 2 million lines of code. It's like the oldest Go app around that's still running. It was built to serve one of the second largest website, or third largest on the planet. Those failovers, that failover code being trusted 100% of the time, all of that stuff, it's very hard to build that in. And then what people hate to hear when I tell them this is, Postgres is a great database. That's true. They don't hate that bit. It's a great database. But in the 90s, Postgres and MySQL diverged heavily. Like the design goals of early MySQL, it's hilarious to look back at it now, was user experience and operability. Right, was the main thing. Like, you could do like master and multiple replicas in MySQL in the year 2000, like easily. Real logical, like real good replication. Postgres just shipped that, right? And it's not wrong. Their trade-offs were different, but they literally Postgres, like MySQL was like, we're going to make it easy to scale, and scale was relative to that era. Postgres kind of more started as like a single server. Like, correctness was very key. Demonstrate the power of SQL, and then they've retrofitted good things that scale, and that's going great. Like, they've got some fundamental issues, like every connection makes a process.
That's a huge one. That's one that I like don't get how everyone isn't constantly complaining about, because like the one time I tried to use Postgres, and we had like a multi-tenant type of, we had a single tenant type of deployment, so every single one of our customers got their own container talking to a single database.
Yep.
Like, the connection management there was just impossible.
Correct.
And I'm confused how like nobody is like.
They do. There's a couple of maintainers trying to push it through, and they just get flamed. People don't want to hear that Postgres has any faults. It's crazy. Yeah.
I did see something what someone was suggesting, reworking that whole. It's obviously a crazy amount of work, but again, it's just funny because it so reminds you of that time where it's like, oh yeah, just if you want to do anything in parallel, you spin up a new process. Like, that's like that was approach to everything, which doesn't make any sense at all anymore.
It's just so expensive for the server to do that. Like, people, like I see guides where it's like, when you get to 2,000 connections, you need PG Bouncer. Every MySQL node at GitHub has 70,000 active connections to it.
Wow.
The threads, they're 4K each, and they sit there doing nothing when they're not being used. Like,
you have to like load a ton of RAM, and you're not actually using any of it. It's Well, the pricing side of that always gets really out of whack.
Yeah. So MySQL has like InnoDB, which is an exceptionally mature storage engine. MySQL replication is incredibly robust and is used all over PlanetScale, and is used at other, like most companies, like very large scale companies, rely on MySQL replication to be their cross data center replication, right? Like you replicate to your MySQLs, you rebuild all the caches on the other side. It's like hyper robust. And MySQL is extremely operable. Like no matter what you want to say, the reason it powers most of the top 100 internet websites, which it just truly does, is because for a long time it's been robust, and at scale that's all you really choose is operability and robustness. It's automation tooling, it's predictable, it does all that stuff. So we have Vitesse counts on a bunch of that stuff. Postgres will get there eventually, and maybe we'll do Postgres one day. But like this level of operability has meant that the largest graph database on Earth is actually sharded MySQL. The largest message queue on Earth is actually sharded MySQL. It kind of just ends up all boiling down to under the hood. You need to your data stores just need to be heavily sharded, fast and consistent, and you just build everything else on top. And so when you boil it down, what it's really good at, the job to be done, MySQL is exceptionally good at doing that. Like it's just very good.
Yeah, I think even Dynamo is on top of MySQL too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no degree.
Yeah.
I've never understood like enough about the differences in MySQL and Postgres. I feel like such a dummy, but I've never understood why app developers, people like me who just build like at this very high level stuff, like pages and components and whatever, like why do people have strong preferences? There's a lot of people that love Postgres, and I don't even know what they love about it, like why they choose it.
I think it's because it has a million features. Postgres has so many features.
I feel like I just don't use any features.
Well, it just comes down to how you build. I think some people like to have the database do everything, and then other people like to have the application do everything.
Yeah.
And at scale, obviously, the application scales easier than the database, so it's dumb to do everything in the database. But yeah, it has like an insane amount of features. Like what I like, and I started with Postgres and I moved to MySQL later. And initially I was like, oh, like less features.
Yeah.
But over time I sort of like that more because I'm like, it's like a smaller surface area, and I like that smaller surface area. I had to go back to Postgres for something, and I was like, yeah, there's more stuff here, but it does like complicate things quite a lot.
I still feel so dumb, but like what features? Like what are things? What are
they have more types. They have more some correct. Okay. Some things they're more correct on. MySQL has some stupid defaults, like ridiculously dumb defaults. In terms of like encodings and shit like that, it's just by default bad. They fixed a lot of that stuff now, but like it has way more types. They had JSON columns in the early days. But again, like,
I knew about the JSON thing.
This is a great this is a great perfect analogous between Postgres and MySQL world. So they built JSON columns. And they sucked at the beginning. Of course they did. It's like early, but the performance was terrible. Like, and people would just say, "Don't use these things." But Facebook looked at that and said, "That's good. I like JSON columns. That's a good idea." They built it into it took them a year to build it into MySQL or whatever, and put it into prod on an obscene amount of MySQL servers, and it was working robustly. And then Postgres got good. And that's the difference, right? Like you can ship something early that isn't going to get used by Facebook, or you have the burden of shipping something that's going to get used by Facebook. And you kind of converge maybe around the same time, but one is like a lot more operable still and can do all of these types of things. And so MySQL is a lot slower to do a lot of these features that Postgres implements. And their architecture is a lot more segmented. And they have a plugins architecture as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the extensions are a big thing.
Yeah, which is exceptional. Okay. Like, it's very good, right? So people do these extensions. They have downsides. They don't have like full access to all the APIs that would allow you to do like really performant things or whatever. But the other side of that is Amazon has to verify them, because one of the largest ways people were getting hacked on Amazon was because of extensions.
That's funny.
And the other thing is like people used to shit on us for not having foreign keys and still not supporting triggers, and we never will ever support triggers, and no one at scale uses foreign keys, is because no one needs these things at scale. It just does not matter to have these things. So we just don't like bother supporting that stuff, because at scale people don't need it. But at not scale, there's loads of little features and things you can do and build. And
so this idea, Dax hinted at it, of like doing most stuff in your application and not in your database, that's actually good, because I just felt lazy for not learning how to do all the stuff in the database, but maybe that's just okay, and that's even a good way to build. Is that what you're saying?
It's a big it depends on that one, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's very unsatisfying. It's all trade-offs. But I fully believe you just shouldn't do dumb things inside your database, and people do really dumb things inside their database.
Yeah.
And people also don't understand that certain types of data can be stored in much more efficient ways on other specialized databases.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a big, like, search isn't very good in MySQL, not right now anyway. And so you might have to like archive your data over, like replicate it over to Elasticsearch to get better search and stuff like that.
Sure.
But for a small amount of data and a simple website, the search is like just enough, and it just depends. But we do, when people move to us and they have to move to a sharded architecture, that's when they do have to do a bit of app changing and a little changing around. But when you're going to scale, everything sucks. Like there's just no, like at any scale, it's all bespoke. You know, there's just, you're working on, there's a 5-person team at Facebook that are the world's experts on TCP, and they work on network level stuff. There's someone who rewrote all of the network drivers to get performance. Like just everything, you're just whack-a-moling, cost, efficiency, speed, performance, uptime, and everything sucks and everything breaks.
Yeah, I read this book called The Art of PostgreSQL, and what was interesting about it is it went to the extreme of being like, here's like what code you'd normally write, but it turns out you can just do that like directly in Postgres, and it goes to like that crazy extreme. It was definitely interesting, but I feel like it like totally messed up my perspective for like a year until I shook it off, because I started feeling bad anytime I like was pulling out a little bit more data than I technically needed because I could have like massaged it in a certain way in the database. So I think I had to like recover from reading that book to get to a good place. But yeah, like there are people that argue like any kind of like reshaping your data because like it's in one format and you need it in a different format to serve from your API. They say like technically your Postgres database can do that if you write queries to reshape it the way you want, and then you just pipe it through your application. The downside is that work of transformation is not like, your database doesn't have to do that work. Your application can do it, and your application like scales easier than your database. So, you know, like maybe you shouldn't be doing it there. It's a lot of stuff in that pattern. Yeah.
Stored procedures are a mistake. No one should be putting that amount of logic.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to people coming from other databases who have written giant and had thousands of stored procedures. So they've got a whole second code base inside their database, and it's just bad. It just doesn't work. It doesn't scale. The whole if you don't understand that stored procedure, you could like, it makes it really hard because you have to understand the upper level stack, like the code, the language of the upper level stack, then how stored procedures work, and the edge cases that could perform just to get back. Silly. It's just bad. It shouldn't be done.
Yeah, I think what people forget about code is everyone's so practiced with it. Like we're practiced at collaborating on it. We're practiced at like using it with Git and like looking at the history and pull requests and workflows, and all that stuff like goes away when you try to eject out of code.
Yeah.
I did come across, but when I was consulting, I did come across a team that did everything through stored procedures. Like all their business logic, everything was in there. And obviously, like it wasn't great, but it was also one of those things where they've been doing it that way for super long, and they like kind of gotten decent at doing stuff that way. And I was like, this definitely isn't for me, and I think I'd recommend it for anyone. But like, I can see how you can maybe like get good at like almost anything if you do it for long enough.
Yeah. Some people do some really horrible, like people talk about monoliths. Most people's real monolith is their database. A lot of people have more than one application talking to their database. And that's again where maybe it's better to have some stuff in the database, but probably don't do that.
Yeah, so consistency. Yeah.
Yeah, probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at like an hour and a half.
This was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Thanks for joining.
So one episode I won't listen to because I hate my own voice. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
It'd be weirder if I do wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning with my own voice in my ear.
Yeah, I know. If it plays the next episode and you just hear yourself, it is weird. Yeah, I think I used to hate the way I think everyone hates the way their voice sounds. I've gotten used to it because I like hear it by accident so much now. But it is weird when I like sometimes like I'll hear like Liz listening to like me and Adam's voice. I'm like, it's like kind of a weird experience.
Yeah. If I ever do a like formal, this is like purely only like a tech podcast that just want you to talk about PlanetScale, I just send it to a couple of people on my team and just please listen to this and check I didn't say anything stupid because I can't. I can't do it myself. Yeah, it's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
That's funny.
On that note, we can send this to you if you want to like.
I would take a
run
copy
it by.
just to stick in my ever-expanding bag of data that I want people to discover.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
500 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I actually have to figure out what's that.
No, go. Carry on. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I was just gonna say I have to figure out my Unify controller. Something is wrong. My whole house doesn't have the internet. I was gone for a little bit, and I restarted my.
Wow.
Things are good.
What a
But
coincidence that was.
Not a good commercial for Unify.
Because-
Yeah, sorry.
That's what. If you say nice things about computers, they will immediately let you down.
Yeah, they will exactly.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, it was funny when you got on. You were like, "If you don't hate computers, you haven't worked in it long enough." My dad's an engineer, and it's funny because if you see him operate in his like day-to-day life, you would never think he knows anything about tech, because at this point he just hates everything and doesn't want to learn anything.
Yeah.
So like he's always like doesn't know how to use a TV, doesn't know how to like do anything, any of this stuff. But he's built some wild, crazy stuff in his career.
Yeah.
But you know, he's like he's over all of it at this point.
Yeah. I've met so many people that I know people who have retired. They closed their laptop and I'm never looking at a fucking computer ever again.
That's awesome.
They were just gone. It's all just wandered off into the woods. It's fantastic. If by the way, it can't make it into the podcast, but I'll tell you what we've figured out. You guys are
Yeah.
Oh, here, let's say bye. I'm gonna hit the end of the recording just so we don't
okay. Should we do a
accidentally leak
we'll
it.
do a staged little bye? Do we say goodbye at the end?
Yeah, goodbye.
All right. See ya.
We're terrible. We're terrible at the ending. We don't ever know. Thanks for coming on, Sam.
Yeah, bye.